Hi, Michelle. I'm so glad to have a chance to chat with you. I feel like we are so on islands when we're these in these executive roles, and you and I have had a chance more recently to spend some time with each other, and it's been really fun getting to know what's going on at Holy Ground and how we serve the same population and don't necessarily serve the same population. And maybe people think that they're all bundled together, but can you just talk about the people that you serve in your program?
Yeah, absolutely. So, long time no see. Good
Yeah.
to see ya. I think it's very interesting because we serve a similar population, but we both have our own niches, and the way that we structure our programs is quite different. So I'll just kind of jump in and tell you a little bit
Mhm.
about Holy Ground PBC and what we do. So we have two independent living campuses that are furnished, that come furnished. So when our clients come in, they have everything they might need. We're a 2 to 4 year program, so it's up to the client whether or not they'd like to stay the full 4 years or just kind of do something on their own in that 2 to 4. We provide holistic wraparound services. So that includes case management, career coaching. All of our clients are required to get at least a GED before they graduate from the program or successfully leave. We provide obviously the housing piece. We encourage our clients to have food stamps, cash assistance, WIC, and all that good stuff, but we will cover if there's a need there to provide food or anything like that. So we really try to hit it from across the board with that holistic view. We also do our after school childcare. So we've got the Learning Tree program, which is completely run by volunteers, in fact. And so
Mhm.
it's our after school program where our children come in who are school age, they get one-on-one attention with our volunteers. Many of our volunteers will even help our clients understand like report cards. I don't know if you've seen a report card recently. They are not easy to read for
Really?
yeah, no, they're definitely complicated. And so our mentors and volunteers will help our clients understand the report cards and also any other things that the parent might want to do that'll help increase the child's ability to succeed in their educational pursuits. Reading to them after a long day is obviously hugely important. So we encourage all of our moms to read to our students. We really try to encourage them to also come to the Learning Tree to tour and see what our volunteers do because it's so impactful for our kids. We've witnessed children going from scoring below academic standard to achieving honor roll. So these are huge leaps, and can change the trajectory of a child's life, which is the whole goal. We also have a huge focus on ACEs, which are adverse childhood experiences. And so um, both of our moms and the children get counseling for ACEs or any other trauma that they might be experiencing. And the goal really is so that our clients can leave this program and not have to depend on another community resource again.
Mhm.
So we really are trying to disrupt the systems that suppress our most at-risk populations so that they can live successful, resilient, and sustainable lives.
Do you have I love the part about, and I wonder how much you really focus on it when you talk about, and you just did now, but the what you're doing with the kids. That I mean, because we have our on-site childcare center, and I think we have undervalued it or under promoted it maybe, that what we do here. And it's so significant when we talk so much about what we're doing for these moms, because of course
That's what we do.
they're the first line of defense, right? We have to strengthen them so that their life will have different more successful outcomes for them. And in strengthening them, we're strengthening the environment their kids grow up in. So we talked a lot when I first arrived here about the program that we offer moms. And in the meantime, you probably can't hear it, but I almost always can hear at the child care center across the way when you can just hear all those like joyous yells and the giggling and things. And it's like there's something really remarkable happening there while the moms are developing themselves. So um, it's definitely a second generational. And I say this sometimes, it's just a cliche sometimes that we say we're breaking generational patterns or cycles
Right.
of poverty. But it's happening. It really is happening here.
100%.
And yeah, and it's almost it's underrated here. I think the more we look at it and the longer the moms stay here with their kids, you're seeing the results of it.
I mean, that young age, our children are so impactful at that age, and they're like sponges. They're so smart. They're so observant. They hear everything. And so to be able to use that opportunity, we have them, let's cultivate this in the best way
Mhm.
possible, provide them with that extracurricular. At the Learning Tree, we have a huge focus on extracurricular activities. So we have this
Yeah.
really great program that's called Learn, Give, Grow. And so our young students were given $20 to spend at the store. And they had to budget and look at store brand Cheerios versus, Cheerios. And they were like, who would ever buy name brand Cheerios? And I'm like, girl, they're probably made at the same factory anyway. You're so right. And she was like, yeah, who would ever buy those? And so she's putting all this in her cart and she's doing the math and she's loving it. And our volunteers are there helping us say, okay, how much is left now? Honestly, they were doing math in their head quicker than I could count on my fingers. So just cultivating that. And then they took all their purchases and we went to St. Ignatius to make a donation to the food pantry. And so it's interesting. Our kids loved it so much. We weren't sure that they were going to. We didn't think it was going to resonate so deeply. But this idea of giving back to the community and not just receiving, the joy that that feels, especially in the role that we're both in. Obviously, we signed up for this, and
Mhm.
here are these children who want to take part in this, and all that comes from being introduced to these experiences that maybe our moms didn't have the opportunity to experience as they were kids or are too busy with work, school, the multitude of things that they are trying to handle in their life. So we have these volunteers come in who can hit that avenue of stuff and how
Mhm.
impactful it can be. So I couldn't
Mhm.
agree more to not underscore the childcare and the generational impact of giving these children those experiences and walking with them one on one. So
Yeah,
I
and we also, because we have them as infants, their brain development from the time they're born while we have them, those neural networks are so rapidly growing and developing. And it's at a time where they're here with their moms in a safe place, a secure place, a place where they're getting all the stability that they need.
all their needs.
Plus that childcare center, just like you were saying, yours, the Learning Tree is staffed by volunteers, so is ours. And these volunteers just love these kids. Every interaction they have with a volunteer is one that's just nurturing. And then
And
to
strengthening.
yes, and to interact with the other children in there is just such a great for their social relationships, their emotional relationships, how those develop are such a healthy way, and quite possibly not at all the way their mother grew up. So
I couldn't
it
agree
it is
more.
changing. Yeah, it is changing those generational patterns. But you said something that made me think. What? Let's stick with the adults. What do you think their greatest needs are?
Ooh, I can't just pick one. We have a multitude of needs right now. I would say a big issue for us, which I know, luckily for you guys, it might not be an issue specifically because of the way your program is built, but transportation and childcare right now are
Mhm.
huge issues for us because many of our clients do not have cars. They do rely on public transportation, which causes a problem for daycare timing. So getting to work, sometimes it takes two buses and a 15-minute walk, which could be about an hour. So dropping your kids off to daycare, getting to work on time, getting off work on time to then pick up your children at daycare is nearly impossible for some of our young moms. And so we're trying to find solutions, volunteers, extended daycare hours, which I know during COVID they got extended, but many of them are not extended into late night anymore. So
Mhm.
many of these parents are coming 30, 40 minutes just too late to just pick those kids up on time. So
Mhm.
that's a huge issue. And then I'm sure you guys experience this. We want to cultivate stronger parenting. So we're trying to find really, really impactful parenting classes. What we're using right now, we have some community partnerships, but weirdly enough, a lot of what we're using right now is online. So like Reels or TikTok, something that really resonates with this age group that we're working with. Our moms are 18 to 30. Everything's on TikTok. And so we are trying to utilize our resources that resonate with them. So finding TikToks with parenting suggestions, videos that show, your kid has a meltdown in the ice cream store. How do you handle it? watching
Mhm.
these moms online do that. So that's one of the things we're really trying to work on. And then I think mental health, obviously, as you know, is huge. So that's definitely one that we're trying to conquer. Luckily, we do have a great therapist who provides private counseling as well as group counseling for our residents. But at the end of the day, the biggest issue right now, permanent housing, affordable permanent housing, so that when our clients leave this program, they leave to independence, which right now is nearly impossible. We really try to advocate for room shares, for the smart landlord program, just different resources so that our clients can have a successful life after they leave the program. Do you guys feel that you're experiencing some of the same needs?
Yeah, yeah, definitely the same things. I think my approach is, we've talked about this, very comprehensive. The areas that I see that are paramount to their success when they leave here is when, remember, one, a mindset that they are no longer impoverished. And so when I think about, and I worry about this sometimes when I say it aloud, when I talk to people about what case management is, and we talk about getting them on food stamps and WIC and making sure they're on Medicaid. These are stopgaps. These are not things that we're working on long term. For this is not our goal. That when they leave here, we
Right.
go, "Yay!"
Right.
This is where you are, because I don't consider that strong enough when you're also going to face housing costs, because the food stamps they get, WIC, it's insufficient. It does not lift them out of poverty.
Right. The goal
So
is to not be reactive, but instead to be proactive.
right. So for us, one of the biggest things we're working on with them, yes, parenting. And I know I told you, we have a lot of partnerships in this community with existing organizations that are funded for specific purposes that support the work we're doing here. So we get parenting, we get nutrition counseling, we get mental health counseling, we get academic advisement, career coaching, so many partnerships that help us do things where
Mhm.
not only that we don't have to pay for, but they're also uniquely applied to each resident here, where we can pretty much, I'm not to use this word because it sounds like I'm going to use the word, but it sounds like a luxury. But concierge, I mean, it's really like sitting there
Right.
going, okay, what is it
Specific.
that you need? You need a Spanish translator so that you can study material, so that you can pass your national license exam. We can
Yeah.
find that for you.
You need to meet the clients where they're at.
Correct. So when I look, across the landscape of what Palm Beach County is, I say, okay, we don't the most important things to me are your education, your career plans, and housing when you leave here. And in this population, they cannot rely on public school at this point. Childcare costs are huge. So we use the Early Learning Coalition and their voucher program that partners with Triple P, or Positive Parenting Program. And once the residents take the Positive Parenting Program, they get a voucher that significantly reduces their childcare for the year. It's a
Still,
scholarship essentially.
sometimes those costs, the extra costs still are extensive. And if you've got a woman with two children, the fees that the daycare place on top of it can sometimes be debilitating,
Mhm.
which is
Right.
scary. And I really resonate with something that you said about the mindset, and this idea of hope.
Mhm.
We had a client recently who, I think she was feeling very discouraged, just a little hopeless. And she
Mhm.
was like, what are the other shelters like? And our case manager was like, whoa, whoa, whoa. You are not leaving here to go to another shelter. And she just gave this beautiful, almost like you could feel it, this vision for this client so that she could envision herself in her own apartment with her own money, making us dinner when we come visit. And I
Mhm.
think that's so crucial that so many of our moms and so many of our clients leave this program thinking, okay, well, I'm just going to have to go to another program, or I'm just going to
Mhm.
depend on my cash assistance, or, whatever it is. And that's not the goal. We
Mhm.
want something more.
Right. Well, our mission statement is overcoming adversity, finding hope, and learning to live victoriously. Because when they come
Love it.
here, they're really, drafting off of our hope. They're looking at us like, is there something we can really believe in? I mean, a lot of them don't have, to them, a job at Walmart is their lot in life. That's where they're headed. And when we start talking to them about what they
What are
enjoyed
your
doing when
dreams?
they were younger, or when we
Right.
kind of give them opportunities to look at what other people do for work, it starts to open them up. And when
Yeah.
we're behind them, just kind of, fueling
Lifting.
that.
Yes, yes.
Mhm. And then we want them to not just draft off our hope, to actually embrace it and discover it for themselves. So that is a huge piece. We don't, and here as well, and I know you all do too, the financial literacy is so important, because there is a very deep hopelessness that comes with the kind of lives they've grown up with, where they just,
Paralyzing.
yes, they just debilitate. I always say debilitating. It's the
It
same.
is.
It is. It's just they cannot get past the idea that they will be on food stamps for the rest of their life. They will live in Section 8 housing, and so we have to get them beyond that. We have to get them thinking past that. We have to show them that they have dignity, that they can dream, that we will help them with resources, that they might not have had people in their lives that would support or encourage those kinds of dreams, but we not only believe it, but we also back it up with the support to help them get there.
So many clients, and I don't know if you experience this, but we have so many clients come in and we ask them what their dreams are, and they're like, I don't know, don't really, I don't know. I'm just trying to get it day by day.
Right.
And that's exactly what you're talking about is what's your vision? We recently did vision boards with our clients during our retreat. And it was incredible to see the things that they've chosen. They want to be um, EMTs. There's all these different things that they want to do and be and see themselves doing. And it's like before when they came in here, they were like, we're just trying to make it. And now we have all these beautiful vision boards to show these incredible goals that these women have. And it's like, this is you. We had a client who was like, I just want to be a strong, independent woman. I'm like, girl, you are. You are
Mhm,
already. It's
mhm.
just cultivating that love and hope, dignity. And I love your mission statement. Did you say live victoriously?
Learn to live victoriously. I was one of four kids to my mom, who is a single mom, and we grew up experiencing poverty. And I always say that, sure, I can relate to poverty. I just read an article about this that someone sent me, that talked about what people learn who have experienced poverty, and it was all very positive things about resilience, and you learn to manage with less. And it was like, hey, here's the flip side of poverty. And I was telling the person that poverty is one thing. We actually have control of that when we become adults. But when you also have been defeated by abuse, witnessing violence, witnessing death, death of family members, lack of transportation, you're inaccessible health care. There's disruptions in your education because people keep moving and moving districts or whatever,
Yeah,
or your food insecurity. It's just defeat,
it's
defeat,
impossible.
defeat. Right.
Yes.
And so when we say mental health counseling, why that we're providing it, that's not the end all. That's not going to be that will absolutely work on trauma. And we're going to do that. Like, as you said, we're going to work on ACEs types things, but there's so much. There's addiction, there's abuse, there's true mental, diagnosable disorders. So yes, that's a piece of what we do. But at Hannah's Home, we also focus on, as you said, parenting skills, but also civic engagement, healthy social relationships, building that social safety net, we always say here. Um, and the other things that the other things we've talked about with academic and social and career advancement, but spiritual, we also work on spiritual practices, because we truly believe that when you start looking beyond yourself and you realize it is not all on you, that God does provide. I mean, He provides through people, and we are those people. We're just a set of people in their lives that are going to help them. So we're trying to do that 360, as you said, holistic
Yep.
approach to their well-being.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You can't just focus on one part of this. Like I said, you have to meet them where they're at. You have to, see where they are, what their goals are, and then work in and play into those things.
Mhm.
Providing that community and the social aspect, and just giving those resources to, like, I almost like want to call it the Michelin man, just surrounding these clients and these moms with resources, love, hope, dignity, all the things that you said. So I love it. And I think you and I have we're so lucky to be a part of this, and to see these clients who have reached that success. We have a client who recently bought her first home. Um, that is generational.
Mhm,
Like, to be able to pass down a home to your children, they will never experience the same things that she experienced. Thank
mhm,
goodness. Thank goodness.
mhm.
And like you said, to be able to put that burden, share that burden with whatever your faith might be, with your community, with your resources, with our staff, because we're here to help.
Mhm. So we have just a few minutes left. I just wanted to ask you, let's say Michelle to Karen.
Okay.
Let, let's do a reality check. What's the reality of the work that we do? Where are the areas that you think, yeah, light gets shed on it, and you're like, hmm, okay, that's a reality to face.
Mm. Okay, I think this might answer your question, but if it doesn't, you just let me know. So, we recently had a client who was non-compliant. And so she was doing she ended up on, we do a redirection. So we have a policy where if we have a client who's not hitting the goals or abiding by some of the guidelines that we have, we get them on a redirection. And eventually, if they continue down that path, they will face an exit from the program based on their choices, and it's their choice to leave. We're not forcing anybody to stay. But we found that the ability to advocate for oneself, is a missing piece in what we're experiencing. And so a huge need for us is, if we have a client who's sort of falling off the wagon, um, if somehow we could cut in there and work with that client, help them believe they could advocate for themselves, I think we could cut off a lot of maybe losses. Like, we could somehow find a way to help this mom become successful in the program. Like, so we had this client who was facing exit, and she was, man, ready. It was ready. It was, and we had her mentor. We all met together. Her mentor, staff, and her mentor, before we met, went over to her house and said, "What's our plan?" Like, they took notes. They had notes ready. She doesn't usually make eye contact. The client wasn't normally making eye contact. She was making eye contact. She, like, strongly advocated for herself, which was so impressive. We were on the cusp of losing this client, but because our mentor was able to step in and help this client advocate for herself, we were able to save this relationship and see what success she can create for herself, because it didn't have to end too soon.
Mhm.
But that's a big problem, as a client who might be too quiet, or who we can't pull the information from enough to say, okay, what do we do here? And so that's maybe the not pretty side. When we have a client who is so deep within themselves, and we have a hard time pulling out information to try to save that relationship. I think that's probably the part that needs light shed. How
Mhm.
about yourselves?
I would say the reality is that we won't be able to help everyone that we want to help. That, as you say, this is a voluntary program,
Right.
and we will invest, every single person on staff is invested in the well-being and success of each resident. However, we have a program that we offer that we believe has been tested to be um, the pathway to success. And if you don't believe that, and I don't mean walk in and embrace the path, it's different for every person. The pattern, the time is different for every person. Everyone who comes here, just like you, 18 to 30, they are here throughout their pregnancy, and from the time their baby is born, they have 2 more years here. So we have plenty of time to accomplish a
Mhm.
lot. However, not everyone who walks through the door is ready. Some of them are in
Right.
such deep crisis. This is the first time they've had a chance to take a breath for themselves. And so for them, that's very healing, is to just rest and recover. Will we be doing career advancement during that time? Perhaps not. So it will take time. And at the same time, this didn't happen while I was here, but that's not to my credit or anything. But I do know others who have been here and said they left early, but came back later and said, I really just needed to recover.
Wasn't ready.
I left too soon. I shouldn't have done that. It wasn't better when I got out there. It was hard, but I really just wasn't doing the program because I needed to recover. And
It's
so
all
one
about choice and change and that independent decision to bring that on. And it, like you said, some clients, some moms just may not be ready yet. And I loved when we met in person, I love what you said about whether or not they stayed here for the entirety of their program, they were loved, they were prayed over, they were given safe shelter, a shower, food, support. And so, whether or not the program's for them, maybe it's not a good fit, but what we say what we can do, we did. We provided
right.
the most we could in that situation. And so they had nights of shelter, they had love and care.
Mhm.
And like you said, some come back and say, hey, you know what? I wasn't ready then, I'm ready now. And here we are with open arms.
Right.
So it doesn't always work.
Mm-mm. It doesn't, but like we're here, we stand ready. We're
Yeah.
always growing, always learning about each of their needs. It's to me, um, learning to really lean in and understand each person is, I mean, I love doing that. It is a joy to me to get to know someone, and I think it's valuing to them. It gives them a sense of worth, and they deserve it. I mean, I think that's just really important to me is that they recognize they deserve what we offer here.
Yes.
And perhaps I'd say that's one other disappointment or sad reality is that some of them don't believe it and they will continue not to believe it. Sometimes because they're still in relationship with people who should be loving them, but who aren't loving them.
Aren't. You know,
Right.
we've
So
had clients who come back and say, I just don't want to tell him I'm here. I don't want to tell him I'm here. And I'm like, why? He's sleeping on a couch with somebody's friend. Like, you're here in a wonderful program, advancing yourself, getting education. What is he doing? Sleeping on somebody's couch? And it is hard when we have clients who are embarrassed or don't want to share that because of some rejection from some guy or some community that's like you think you're better than us. No, these
mhm,
clients are here knowing that they're worthy and that they're ready and willing to make a positive change in their life. So
mhm,
it's hard to hear when we have clients who have naysayers outside.
mhm.
You want to just pull them in and be like, don't ever listen to
It's
them.
heartbreaking. It's really
Yeah.
heartbreaking because it's truly, each person is so unique, blessed with so many talents and skills and the personalities they have, the heart
Yeah.
they have, the things that they
The heart.
truly do. I mean, they're just as generous in spirit, just as loving as anyone. And yet, coping has superseded that.
Yeah.
Battling what they are facing every day has
Trauma reaction,
superseded that. Yeah, I mean, they basically are, armed for battle instead of able
survival
to,
mode.
and yeah, instead of being that loving,
And that's
caring
years
person.
and years of repeated, circumstances and experiences that lead them to believe
Right,
that. We have if you think about it, our staff, we've got a big battle to fight to show them that that is not true.
right. Yep,
And to have them look in the mirror and see something that they truly love.
yep, yep. Well, Michelle, we already know we could talk for hours, so
Hopefully we get
but
some good stuff from that.
yeah, yes.